Good morning, students. Now, this week, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a heads up. You know, I'm going to be posting video today. I also will be posting another video on Wednesday. Both lessons will be over completing a square. Alright, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go over completing a square and then how to write that in vertex form and to figure out what our shifts from our parent function x squared, f of x is x squared, is. Your assignments this week. Of course, you'll have a couple of questions at the end of this video and a couple of questions at the end of Wednesday's video, which will be due on their respective dates. As you know, I will state those later on in the video. And then also you'll have some work on ingenuity. I need you to complete the assignment for completing a square for the first part, and then I'll need you to complete the quiz for completing a square continue. Again, if you guys have any questions, you know we're having a new schedule, but I'll be accessible whenever you guys need me, between the hours of 7:30 and 3:30. All right. So without further ado, let's start today's lesson. All right. Today's lesson will be over completing a square. Right. Completing a square is when we're trying to find a c value for our quadratic. Right. Given ax squared plus a bx, we want to find out what our c value is whenever my a value equals 1. Now, how do I do that? Now, in order for me to find my c value, right, what I want to do is I want to take half of my b value, right, and then square it. So as I look here, my b value here is 12. Right, I want to find my c value, which goes on this line right here. I want to take half of my 12. Right, half of 12. That would give me 6. From this value, I want to square it. That's going to give me 36. So my c value here, while completing the square, right, will be 36. All right, and that's all we want to do. We just want to find that c value. That c value here would be 36. Now here, I have a negative 18. All right, so again, what I want to do, I want to take half of my negative 18, which gives me negative 9. I'm going to square that number, and it's going to give me a positive 81. Remember, anytime you square a value, it doesn't matter that this number, your b value, is negative. Anytime you square a negative value, you're going to get a positive value, right? Because negative 3 times negative 3 will give me a positive 9, because negative times a negative always is going to give me a positive, right? Now, these are easy values, right? They're even. Anytime you take half of an even number, it comes out to a whole number. But what happens if we have an odd number, right? Right here we have 9. Well, I want to take half of 9. Smith, do I want to change that to a decimal? No, I do not want to change that to a decimal. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. As you'll see later on, dealing with fractions are a lot easier than dealing with decimals when you're working with these quadratics. So what this is going to give me, I'm going to square the top. That gives me 9 squared. I'm going to square the bottom. That gives me 2 squared. That gives me 81 over 4. So right here, when I complete the square, I take half of 9. Half of 9, if you put it in your calculator, it's going to give you 4.5. We don't want 4.5. You don't even need to use the calculator. Just put 9 over 2. That means half of 9. All right, then we square that number. 9 squared gives me 81. 2 squared gives me 4. That means my c value here would be 81 over 4. Right, and lastly, we have x squared minus 15x, and we want to complete the square in this. Right, so what we want to do, we want to take our b, which is negative 15. Right, we want to square it. That's going to give me a negative 15 squared. That's going to give me 2 squared. Well, negative 15 squared gives me 225. 2 squared gives me 4. My c value, in order to complete this square, would be 225 over 4. Right, and that's how we complete the square for ax squared plus bx, given that my a value is 1, which means that my leading coefficient is 1. So I don't have a 2 or a 4 or a 7 here, right? My leading coefficient is 1, right? So if you guys need to see this, let's zoom in on the board for you. All right. So now we want to be able to write those things in factored form. So what we had originally here, we had x squared plus 12x plus 36. Right. The next one we had was x squared minus 18x plus 81. Here we had x squared plus 9x plus 81 over 4. And then lastly we had x squared minus 15x plus 225 over 4, right? And now what we want to do, we want to be able to write these in factored form, right? So in order to write these in factored form, what we would do is we would take x, we would go half of my b value squared. Alright, and so for my first one, we want to write it factored. What we have is x plus, well, b is a positive 12. Half of positive 12 gives me a positive 6. Alright, squared. Now we have it written in factored form. Alright, same here. Right, my b is negative 18. Half of negative 18 gives me negative 9. Alright, so that would give me x minus 9 squared. Alright, here we have x squared plus 9x plus 81 over 4, where my b is a positive 9. So half of my positive 9 would give me positive 9 over 2 squared. And then lastly, right, my b is a negative 15. Right, half of my negative 15 would be a negative 15 over 2. Right, and that value would be squared. So this is how you write it in factored form after you complete the square, right? After you complete the square, the way you write it in factored form is just to take half of your b value, right, add it to your x value, and you square that binomial. All right, so let's zoom in on the board just in case we can't see it. All right, if you guys need to pause to rewrite it, go ahead and take the time to do that right now. All right, perfect. All right. Now, what we want to do now is we want to do a couple of examples of how to write, how to use completing a square to write a quadratic in vertex form, which will ultimately give you your vertex, all right? So here's what we're going to have. All right, example 1. All right, what we have is x squared plus 6x minus 8, all right? And we want to use completing the square to write this in vertex form, right? And so here's what we have. We actually have an a, a b, and a c here, right? But what we want to do, we just want to use our ax squared and our bx in order to complete the square. So we're going to just separate this c value away from my ax squared and my bx. Right, so we're going to use these first two terms in order to complete the square, right? So again, we're going to take half of my b value, right, which would give me 6 over 2, which gives me 3 squared, which is 9, and we've completed the square. All right, we get 6x plus 9. All right, that goes in here. But out here, what I have to do, if I put a plus 9 in here, I need to put a minus 9 out here. right? Because I don't want to change my problem. If I'm adding 9 to the problem, in order for me to keep my problem the exact same way as it is, I need to still subtract 9 from my problem, right? If I add 9, then essentially this becomes x squared plus 6x minus 17, or plus 1, right? But that's not what this problem is. So if I'm adding 9, I need to subtract 9 as well, and that's going to give me a 0 pair. And I can still use this in order to write this in vertex form now, right? So now what I want to do is I want to write this in factored form, right? That's going to give me x. I got a positive 6, so half of 6 gives me 3 squared. On the outside, I have a negative 8. And a negative 9, which gives me minus 17. Now I have it written in vertex form, right? And now I can write my vertex. My vertex would be negative 3, negative 17. So let's just recap what we did real fast, all right? Well, first we were given a quadratic, all right? And we wanted to use completing the square in order to rewrite this in vertex form. So what did we do, right? First, we separated the x squared plus 6x away from the negative 8 by putting parentheses around it, right? Then we use our x squared plus 6x in order to complete the square, all right? We completed the square by going half of 6, which is 3. 3 squared gives me 9. All right, after that, we put it in factored form, which is x plus half of my 6, which is 3. In parentheses, we square it. On the outside, we combine like terms. We got negative 8 and negative 9. That gives me negative 17. Right, and from here we know our vertex will be negative 3, negative 17, because it's written in vertex form. Another thing that we can tell about this is my horizontal and vertical shifts, right? My horizontal shifts, because my vertex is negative 3, that lets me know my h is negative 3. That lets me know my k is negative 17. So this gives me 3 units left, and then 17 units down. Alright, from the origin. Alright, from the origin. Let's take a timer. And there for that. Do not worry. We are going to do another example. Alright, we're going to do another example. Alright, example 2, we're going to use x squared minus 12x plus 14. Alright, so again, first thing we want to do, we want to separate our A and our B term away from our C term, which is going to give us x squared minus 12x in parentheses, all right, plus 14 outside of the parentheses. Now we're going to use this to complete my square. All right, we're going to complete the square here. What we'll have is x squared was half of negative 12. That gives me a negative 6. We square negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 6 gives me a positive 36. Alright, so this gives me x squared minus 12x plus 36 plus 14 minus 36. Remember, if I put plus 36 on the inside, in order for me to keep my equation or my expression the same, right, what I need to do is I need to subtract 36 on the outside. So we add 36 on the inside, we subtract 36 on the outside. These two would eventually cancel out and give me 0, which does not change my problem. I'm just adding 0 to my problem, but I'm using completing the square in order to rewrite this in vertex form, which gives me x minus half of 12, which is 6 squared, and then we have 14 minus a 36, which gives me negative 22, right? And now we've written this in vertex form. This lets me know that my vertex would be a positive 6 and negative 22. Right, that lets me know that my h from my vertex form is a positive 6. My k in this vertex form is a negative 22. Right, so this would be 6 units to the right. This would be 22 units left. I mean down. I'm sorry. 22 units down. I hope you guys can see that a little bit better. I heard we had a couple of issues with seeing the video last week, last Wednesday's video. All right, so what we are left with is our homework. All right, here's what our homework will be. All right, problem number 1 would be x squared plus 4x minus 1 would be x squared minus 6x plus 8 be x squared plus 12x plus 30. All right, what I want you guys to give me is vertex form. Let me know what your h equals. Let me know what your k equals. Let me know your vertical shift and horizontal shift. All right, and that's all you'll be doing, right? So take these, rewrite all 3 of these in vertex form, right? Let me know what your h and your k is. Right? Let me know what your vertical shift is. Let me know what your horizontal shift is. And obviously, right, I want to know what your vertex is. I want to make sure that you guys are clear on how to find your vertex given vertex form, right? Let me go ahead and zoom this in on the board for you guys. All right, vertex form, give me h, give me k, the vertical shift, the horizontal shift, and obviously give me what the vertex is. All right, this assignment will be due on Wednesday by 5 o'clock, right? I'm going to go ahead and update your grades right now. By the time you're watching this video, your grades should be updated and put into Power School, right? The other assignment, you need to do the assignment for completing the square in Edgenuity. Please make sure you take care of that. So turn this in to your Google Classroom, turn the Edgenuity assignment in. I'll make sure I put those grades in for you. And then by Wednesday afternoon, after I finish posting my video, I'll update those. And then Wednesday assignment will be due on Thursday afternoon, sadly. We won't have any school on Friday. You are not obligated to do any work on Friday. Of course, I will be accepting work on Friday, but you're not obligated to do any work on Friday. We will be off, right? That will be your time. You will be out of school if you are in school, so just take that time to relax and, do nothing and enjoy time with your family. If you have any questions, you know how to contact me. You can either email me at steven.smith@sccpss.com, or you can call me at 912-483-8985. Of course, comments in your Google Classroom, I will respond to as quick as possible, but the most efficient way to get in contact with me would be to give me a call on my Google Voice. All right, thank you.